Bone Tomahawk producer Dallas Sonnier charges Leslye Headland with being a sellout who actually used to be based and would have mocked her own show, The Acolyte, just 5 to 10 years ago. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com. And Sonnier posted this to Instagram, his Instagram stories. He says, the Acolyte makes me sad on so many levels. Makes me sad on many levels. Star Wars is awesome, was awesome. Corrects himself there. Kudos to that, because I think the original trilogy is still awesome. I can still enjoy that, but prequels, not so much. They're enjoyable, but I wouldn't describe them as awesome. I think they definitely add to the original trilogy. Obviously, there are criticisms for them, and the sequel trilogies are just absolute garbage. And most of the Disney Plus stuff, I would argue all of the Disney Plus stuff has just been terrible, including Mando Season 1 and Season 2. I know a lot of people like those, but how many people have actually gone back and rewatched them and found repeat enjoyment out of them? I doubt that that's very many. I know I haven't. He goes on and says, I discovered Leslye in a 15-seat theater on Santa Monica Boulevard back in 2007. Like Greta, I think he's referring here to Greta Gerwig, Barbie director, who's supposed to be doing C.S. Lewis's, or doing an adaptation of C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia for Netflix. Crazy feminist. She should be nowhere near C.S. Lewis. I locked arms with this woman and forced Hollywood to pay attention to her. Leslye was so freaking based back then. She would have crap all over the Acolyte for its stupid gender motives and dumb physics like fire in outer space. Now, that is really, really interesting. He's saying that Leslye Headland would have crapped all over her own show for pushing the gender ideology in it, the lesbian space witches, all of this feminist crap. He's saying that she would have crapped all over it back in the day. But apparently something happened. He said, I last saw her in 2017 and she was still her old self. So obviously it happened within the last 7 years. But her reboot of Heathers, co-starring an even younger Brett Cooper, soon got canceled very publicly for all the wrong, dumb reasons. And it really shook her spirits. I saw her lean into modern victim mentality more with Russian Doll on Netflix, and really no turning back from there. He then made this accusation. Hey, look, we all get older. We all got to pay the bills, and the world cracked. I get it. Basically accusing her of selling out, peddling woke ideology in order to get ahead in Hollywood, be able to write and showrun a Star Wars series, and kind of pushing all of this absolute nonsense just in order to churn out a bunch of garbage, I guess. Like, at least if you're going to do this, maybe at least try and make something good. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to imagine that she doesn't actually buy into all this crap because it's all over the show in The Acolyte. So she completely had some kind of massive change in her heart where it was completely hardened. He's obviously saying there's some kind of wound here, potentially from how the Heathers show got canceled. Maybe something else happened. Maybe seeing what Harvey Weinstein was doing might have broken her as well. Not speaking up. Maybe there's some guilt there. And that wound kind of has just been festering. And she just embraced this woke ideology, this victim mentality, the queer ideology, the feminism. And that's all, because that's all in the show, right? That's all in The Acolyte. Because you would think if you didn't actually believe this stuff, you wouldn't be putting it so forthright out there. You would actually be trying to make something worthy of Star Wars. So I think she is totally bought into all this stuff now. Like, she's just not faking it till she makes it. I think she actually believes a lot of this stuff now. And maybe it was originally just to kind of sell out to get ahead. But because she's just entrenched herself in this culture that just pushes these ideologies constantly, and we know the Walt Disney Company is constantly bombarding its employees. Netflix probably is doing it too. They have all these inclusion departments. They have trainings, which are literally just propaganda to brainwash their employees in order to buy into a lot of this stuff. So she's probably, I think she's a true believer now, just based on what we're seeing in the show, all the comments that she's made. But I do find it interesting that someone who knew her going as far back as 2007 says this is not the same person that he knew. And I've changed too. We all change, right? I've changed in the past 5 years. I would say someone who knew me 10 years ago probably might not recognize who I have become. They might recognize me physically and everything, but they might not recognize me based on what I do, how I live my life, etc. Because I've definitely changed the way I live my life for the better. So Sonnier concluded saying, but it's just sad to see someone I managed for over 8 years and cared so much about become the very thing she and I would mock mercilessly for a decade. So that's really interesting too. He's saying here that Headland used to make fun of this stuff, mock it tirelessly for over a decade. And now she has become that. What is the Dark Knight quote? I'm probably going to butcher it. You live to see yourself become the villain? Maybe that's what happened to Leslye Headland. She literally became Two-Face from the Dark Knight. She lived to see herself become the villain. But I found this really interesting. The Sonnier posted this. Someone who knew her personally clearly had a seemingly strong relationship with her based on this post. And that she was nowhere near or nowhere like what she is today. Because we see what she's like today. She's doing interviews with the Hollywood Reporter, saying how she felt sad that people reject queer ideology. She says, honestly, I feel sad that people would think that if something were gay, that would be bad. It's really not that hard to understand. The stuff being gay rejects God's creation. It rejects the complementarity between man and woman, male and female. It rejects the gift of life. It's not hard to see how it would be bad, and acts engaging in those types of acts are wrong and should never be approved of. Nevertheless, she added this: it makes me feel sad that a bunch of people on the internet would somehow dismantle what I consider to be the most important piece of art that I've ever made. So isn't that interesting? She used to be the person doing the dismantling of this absolute lunacy, at least according to Sonnier. And now she's really sad that it's getting dismantled because it's crap. Does anyone really need to do any dismantling? She's done that herself. She's dismantled it herself by just putting it on the screen. And anyone with any eyes can see just how terrible it is. You don't really have to say anything. It speaks for itself. What do they say? An image is like 1,000 words. Well, she has a moving image and it's like 1,000,000 words. And they're all bad, all terrible. She's also said this. She rejects this idea that the lesbian space switches are lesbian space switches, which is literally how it was marketed in like a New York Times piece. They're in a matriarchal society. As a gay woman, I knew it would read their sexuality as queer. So first off, it's literally very heavily implied. There's a caressing of the cheek. There's I created them, I carried them, between the same characters that did the caressing of the cheek. But there also aren't any men in their community. Well, there are cloistered nuns here near where I live. There's no men in their communities, and they're not gay. Utterly ridiculous. Doesn't make sense. Illogical comment. Obviously pushing the queer agenda, even through just how she's saying things like this. Oh, there's no men. They must be gay. What? No. What are you even talking about? It's disordered. It's not natural. So a closeness between the two of them would be natural. No, it is not natural. It is disordered. It seemed plot driven. Absolutely not. It seemed like you're agenda driven. That's what it is. Stop lying. I think she's lying to herself. If what Sonnier is saying that she didn't actually used to believe this, and I think she does, she now does, she's literally lying to herself. She's to be pitied. She's literally Gollum. She's a wretched creature who is destroying herself. She needs prayers. And then she adds this though. I would say it's really reductive to call them lesbians. I think it means you're not really paying attention to the story. It's literally you after she literally just says this right here. I knew it would read their sexuality as queer, but you shouldn't call them lesbians. You literally can't make it. I mean, she's lying to herself. She's trying to gaslight us. I think she's gaslighting herself. It's just truly, truly sad. And this is why this stuff is garbage, because it's made by people who don't have a moral compass, a strong moral compass, a good moral compass. Their moral compass, instead of pointing north, where as it should, it points south. And it's all in their artwork. And it's just terrible. And it's obvious that it's terrible. And then they try and lie to you and tell you that, oh, no, you don't really know what you're talking about. It's actually like my best work. And it's like, no, it's not. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to me. Be honest. Start with that. But unless she has another 180, unless her heart is softened, she's going to continue to lie. She's going to continue to gaslight. But we're going to be here opposing it, calling it out. But let me know what you guys make of this. What do you make of what Dallas Sonnier had to say about Leslye Headland? I think it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of potential takeaways that I probably missed here. Love to see what you guys have to say. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.